Since I got my Google Pixel Fold, I have gotten a ton of comments asking me how particular Microsoft applications run on this device. Now, obviously, a big reason for that is because a lot of my audience are former and current Surface Duo and Duo 2 users, and they are looking at this device as a jumping off point, a place to leave the Surface Duo potentially behind and make that move. And they want to know how well those apps are going to run and work on this device. So in this video, I'm going to try to answer as many of those questions as possible. I made a community post and you guys suggested a bunch of different things. So we're just going to go through as many of them as we can, and I'm going to show you exactly how well they work or perhaps don't work. So the first one on here is Microsoft Launcher. That is a must, and I think that's absolutely fair. That's a good place to start. So let's jump into the Google Play Store and let's grab Microsoft Launcher. And let's go ahead and open this up. And yes, we're going to start off on the cover display and we will move on from there. Let's give it the permissions that it needs. Continue. So here we are on the cover display. We've put our favorite apps and everything in, and it does look and run exactly kind of how you would expect, right? Like everything looks pretty normal. You have your little sidebar over here that has your widgets. You can customize these just like you can on Duo. You have your app drawer here as well. And then of course, more apps scrolling over there to the side. And, of course, just to frustrate people, I'll show you this. You have way more settings than you do on Surface Duo as well. Way more customization than you do on Surface Duo. Let's go ahead and set this as our permanent launcher, just so that if we go home, it's not going to act strange. But here's the thing I think a lot of people want to know. I think a lot of people think if I install Microsoft Launcher on here, maybe it'll do the automatic split screening stuff that you get on Duo. And that's just not how it's going to work, because that automatic split screening stuff on Duo is built into the device, okay? The launcher is not doing the split screening. The OS, it's built into the OS to do that split screening stuff. The launcher is sort of coordinating those split screen things. It's telling it what app to put where, but the actual framework is in the OS, not in the launcher. So if we open this thing up, what you're gonna find is that you basically just get the exact same thing you had on your cover display, but stretched out, right? You get a little bit of weirdness over here. Things are not quite lining up correctly. Could you use this? Yeah, you could. Personally, I don't think it looks particularly great because of the way that things kind of pan out, but you could, in theory, use this. But no, you're not going to get any of the cool Duo features with this launcher. One other thing that's worth noting, you can see the taskbar down here. If we give it a second for it to go away, you'll see what happens here. I can swipe up and there's my taskbar, whereas on the default launcher, that is the bottom row of applications. Any third-party launcher, that's probably how that's going to act. A lot of other people were saying, hey, just any app that's meant for Duo that does the split screening stuff that they made specifically for Duo. So I'm going to do one because that's kind of vague, and there's many things that could potentially apply to that. But one of them that does immediately come to mind is OneNote, because OneNote does do Duo specific stuff. So what I'll do is let's open that up. And what you'll see here is I've got my pages over here and then the actual open page here. You can also do this and get into this view where you have your notebooks and then your pages and then your open page here. You can kind of see how this works. It's not the same as Duo, but it does still do a pretty darn good job of taking good advantage of the screen real estate. And then if you go back to the cover display and open this up, this is what you're going to get. It's a different view, but it still works pretty darn well. Again, you've got your notebooks, you've got your sections, and then you've got your pages here, and you can open them up. So it kind of gives you two different options, and it will seamlessly flow between these as you move between different views, and I think it does work really well. Again, it's not the Duo layout, but it doesn't really make sense for it to be the Duo layout. They can do something a bit more flexible, a bit more dynamic, and that's what they're doing here. Shiny Moo Tank here says, what about Microsoft Mail? I'm assuming that they mean Outlook, so let's open that up. I don't actually think I've got Outlook set up on here, so I'll need to sign into an email account, but we can do that. Okay, I actually was already signed in. And this is actually very similar to the Duo layout. You have your emails over here, and then the open email over here. I'm just gonna jump into my spam folder and you can kind of see what we're dealing with here. Some of these images aren't gonna load because again, it's in my spam folder, but you can see what we're talking about here. This is actually very similar to the Surface Duo layout. Of course, Gmail does the exact same sort of thing, but it also has one big benefit, which is that you don't wind up with advertisements in your inbox like you are going to with Outlook. That is so annoying. That doesn't happen on Duo. It does happen on every other device, and it makes me not use Outlook. I just go back to using Gmail. Shiny Moo Tank also asks about Game Pass, which I have installed, but I have not actually tested out yet. In theory, this should work just fine. Of course, on Duo, Game Pass is kind of cool because it has your controls on one screen, the game on the other screen. This should not quite be anything like that, but it still should work relatively well. I always just use Tunic because I can just jump straight in and like be in the game very, very quickly. So we're just going to use Tunic real quick. If you don't know, Game Pass basically is a service that you pay for that you can then stream games from the internet, from Xbox servers over to your device of choice. And as you can see here, what's happening is the controls are just being layered on top of the game. Let's see if I rotate this, does anything happen? Doesn't look like it wants to rotate. It looks like it's defaulting you to this perspective. Does it have any kind of flex mode functionality? No, not really. Oh, it actually did rotate for some reason when I did that. It doesn't rotate, but if you flex mode, it does rotate, and then you can unflex mode. I'm not sure why you do that. But yeah, the controls are just basically on top, which is going to make things not quite as good. Now, of course, one thing you could do is you could attach a controller. Something like this Nacon Rig MGX should work just fine. And then if we go back into this, of course, I lost my session because I was doing other things. Let's try that again. Now, I will say that if you do attach this to your device, you're going to want to rotate it, which is going to make this a little bit weird because you're going to have to flex mode it and then go back in. But theoretically, it will fit. It just won't quite be, the layout that maybe you're hoping for. But look, I can use the controller and we can jump in and continue. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to get the controller actually on there and then we'll see how that works. Okay, so we are on there. And again, we're clamping in this direction because the hinge goes the other direction. So I don't want to put any strain on the hinge. It might actually not even reach that far anyways. But this is the way I would definitely want to do it. And you can see that this is working just fine. I'm also curious, though, we're kind of going to get sidetracked here. But like, can I like do that? You absolutely can. And that is now pretty flipping cool. So let's zoom out just a little bit here and we will continue our game, and I'll kind of give you an idea of what this is like. Let's turn up the volume a little bit. You could absolutely have like a game playing, a movie playing, a TV show playing, something on YouTube. And this is absolutely playable. Yeah, not bad at all. Game Pass works just fine. Obviously no, cool Surface Duo-esque stuff going on there, but you can kind of do some Surface Duo-esque stuff on your own. Okay, so we've already done OneNote, we've already done Game Pass. How about Microsoft Start? Okay, let's jump into the Play Store. This should work just fine because Start is basically just like a glorified Edge web browser already, but we can test it. We'll check it out. Okay, so here is the app. Now we'll jump into this wrestling article, and as you can see, it's just going to open up that article on the same page. If we go into tablet mode, what happens? What do we get? Okay, so it's definitely not utilizing the space particularly well. We'll go back into that same article, and it looks like it's just full screening it. Like, it doesn't look like it's doing anything dual screen or split screen. It's just kind of stretching the app out. So not a whole lot going on here that's interesting. Let me close it and open it back up though, just to make sure that it doesn't, try to do anything better. So this looks a bit better now. Yes, I know I have Bing. That might look a little bit better, I think, a little bit different. Let's jump into that. But again, it's just opening it up in a tab. So nothing particularly interesting about Start. So this is the Microsoft 365 app. You can see your different options up here: scans, PDF, recent, all that good stuff. You can open up PDFs in this. You can do Word documents, image to table, scan, QR code, all that good stuff. One thing that is a little bit weird, if we do, let's just do scan, you'll see that it kind of tosses it over to one screen in order to do the scanning process. And then whenever you're done, let's go back. It kind of takes a second and then it kind of rescales out, but it seems to be working relatively well. If we jump into a PDF here, you can see how that works. It's going to work just fine. Nothing crazy about this, no like special Duo-esque sort of features, but it's going to work just fine. OneNote is going to be a similar affair. Again, this is not the Duo version of the app. It is the version of the app you get on other devices, but I do believe, yeah. So it's definitely different on the cover display versus on the internal display. So they at least have done a pretty good job of giving you a tablet layout to switch to. Again, same kind of stuff here with the PDF viewing and things like that. You've got your folders and so forth that you're backing up on your computer, so forth and so on. Pretty straightforward stuff, guys. So as you can see, the functionality of these Microsoft apps are sort of on an app-by-app basis. Some of them work better than others. I think Outlook works pretty darn well. OneNote works really well. In fact, you have access to the sticky notes that you don't on Duo, which is weird. Apps like Game Pass, the streaming is pretty generic. I think a controller is going to be much more necessary on this device than maybe it was on Duo or Duo 2. But yeah, like I said, a lot of them are just pretty much generic sort of tablet layouts. You're not getting any of that Duo special sauce with many of them, but that doesn't really stop them from being quite usable. So hopefully that's been educational for some of you lovely folk out there who were looking for this kind of information. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Subscribe so you don't miss that next video. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.